What if everything you thought you knew about the Israeli-Gazan conflict was a lie? Today I reveal how Hamas distorts reality. The IDF recently found a very significant document in Gaza that could change everything. Up until now, we've had educated speculations that Hamas, or the Gaza Ministry of whatever, has been lying about the data coming out of Gaza. This includes the reported number of deaths during strikes conducted by the PAJ that seemed physically impossible. The claimed famine deaths despite the enormous amounts of food and aid flowing into Gaza daily. Even the UN admitted there is no famine in northern Gaza. And the total death counts that in every single conducted third-party revision leads to the conclusions that these numbers have all the requisites of being false. Now we've added to the list the Palestinians' public opinion on their leadership. This document is from the Gazan Political Security and Analysis Directorate, aka Hamas, and it goes through different ways that they want to influence the public opinion. Think of this document like an order from a superior. When I was in the army, every mission began with orders, a mission statement, an objective, and a detailed plan of execution. This document is exactly like that. It has 3 sections and the specifications on how to change the public opinion surveys. I'll add the timestamps below so you can jump to the sections you're interested in. The IDF hasn't specified exactly how or when they found these documents. This is one of many intelligence operations in Gaza that Israel, understandably, keeps secret. For example, after the mission to rescue Noel Gamani, we learned that Israeli operatives had infiltrated Gaza and rented an apartment to surveil the hostages waiting for the right moment to strike. So this is another intelligence operation we likely won't hear all the details about, at least not anytime soon. So without further ado, let's dive into the document. This is the translated version. They don't mess around. The first section, they start by listing the files they have influenced. For example, the internal elections within the Fatah movement, the internal elections within the Dalah movement, the Palestinian Jihad, Judea and Samaria, and even the European arena. They talk about countering any opposing influences regarding issues in the Gaza Strip, such as avoidance of voting for Fatah. They mention influence, guidance, and control of information and coordination of organizing specific activities in the European arena and its connections to the Gaza Strip, including protests against the Israeli-European Council meeting and activities related to the Return and Liberation Week. There's also mention of the Arab involvement in election within the Green Line and the Return and Liberation marches. I mean, it sounds like a Bond villain's plan to control the world, but sadly, this is the reality that we're dealing with. The second section discusses public opinion. Here they specify the public opinion polls that they should conduct, but then, and this is the critical part, they specify control over the results of surveys. Which surveys? Well, all of them. They talk about readiness to conduct sampling during every election campaign held in the Gaza Strip with the aim of delivering the results exclusively and initially to the movement throughout election day. Here we see a governing body that knows it's losing not only the physical war but an internal battle for public opinion with their constituents, or more precisely, their 2 million inmates. Hamas took control as a governing body in Gaza in 2007, not just by winning elections, but by torturing, lynching, and murdering all of the remaining Fatah members, their opposition. Since then, for 17 years, they haven't held a single election. They are the only military, economical, social, and political power in Gaza, and eliminate anybody who opposes them, or in other words, running a dictatorship. And despite controlling whether people hear and learn in educational institutions from kindergarten to universities, in literature, TV shows, public displays, they realize their own people don't support them as much as they like. So their solution is to manipulate the public opinion by lying and deceiving about what the public opinion actually is. They hope this will convince their constituents and their opponents that they're still relevant. It's sad, but that's the reality of Hamas in Gaza. But they don't stop at controlling survey results. They go further, discussing the security measures they must take. They talk about management of numerous communication campaigns, both counter campaigns and offensive campaigns aimed at sowing confusion and influencing opponents. They even discuss targeting hostile activities who incite against the movement, particularly foreign activities, by neutralizing them, damaging their reputation, and exposing their schemes. They mention a specific name, Amer Balusha, a Gazan-based journalist who opposes Hamas and who is friends with another activist you might recognize from recent events, Amin Abed, who on July 9th was critically injured after Hamas police broke all of his limbs and stepped on his teeth because he spoke out against Hamas. In addition to neutralizing people and damaging their reputation, they intend to keep on the ongoing work on the internal divisions within Fatah and the split between the Abbas and Dahlan factions, and attempting to create the image of a mutual attack from both sides. Mahmoud Abbas and Fatah are Hamas's main opposition in Palestinian politics, so lying about their own public opinion isn't enough. They also need to fabricate an internal division that doesn't exist. The rest of the section is all filled with directives like redirecting and diverting public attention, sowing division, defaming, publishing leaks of internal officers, damaging reputations. They even include surveillance actions against their own people, like implementing an early detection system for monitoring security, community, and political threat factors and conducting activities to manage and contain events through integration and collaboration with offensive communication. In other words, they want to prevent anyone from expressing opinions that might negatively impact them, and they're implementing early detection systems to squash any chance of them doing it before it even starts. The last point of the third section is the electronic team file, which is astounding. They go into detail about how they manipulate social media. They talk about increasing the activity of the electronic team belonging to the organization, consisting of over 160 members within the Gaza Strip. Their effort greatly contributes to promoting the movement's narrative, attacking opponents, reducing their communication tools, and countering dubious calls on social media. The electronic team has over 1,115,495 followers on social networks, in addition to publishing in groups in open markets with more than 24 million followers and employing advanced technologies designed to flood social media in a very short time. This shows you in black and white exactly why platforms are so flooded with anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas, and anti-Israel content. It also explains why pro-Israel organizations and even personal accounts like mine get flagged for every minor thing that doesn't align with their narrative. They have tens of millions of followers and employ advanced technologies to flood social media in a very short time. But wait, there's more. The social media messaging team has significantly contributed to combating and limiting the rival's narrative by deleting hundreds of posts, accounts, and pages of the movement's opponents. Now you understand why my posts keep getting flagged for hateful speech, dangerous organizations, or even sexual conduct, even when the post itself has nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, pages like I Am Palestine can post unblurred graphic contents freely, and hateful Nazi comments don't get taken down even though we constantly report them on different platforms. According to them, they succeeded in closing dozens of pages and accounts of various opponents, and destroying publications and platforms of the occupation, including those harming Brotherhood among Al-Qassam, the military branch of Hamas who raped, slaughtered, tortured, and kidnapped people on October 7th. The third section is the support for decision-making and situation assessment file. This includes assistance to the movement's leadership through the most significant information products, development of simulation regarding Zionist activity scenarios related to the West Bank, but most importantly, situational assessment regarding the option of conducting local elections in the Gaza Strip. Here they assess whether holding elections is a good idea, but only if it leads to them winning, strengthening the public opinion in their favor so they can say, "See? We told you. You love us." The document discusses the threat factors associated with such an option and the conditions that need to be met before choosing this option to ensure avoidance of negative consequences at the time of selection. Exactly what every freedom-loving governing body wants for their people. They continue with the trends in Egypt, formulation of a work plan to address the handling of the parties following Abbas's departure. They're already planning for his departure, of course. And naturally, they're developing a document on how to handle the Arab vote in Knesset elections, which contributed to guiding the movement's decision regarding the choice of whether or not Arab citizens of Israel, the Arabs of 48, should participate in the Zionist elections. Because the so-called Arabs of 48 are equal citizens of Israel and have equal vote in Israel presidential elections, which they can vote for their own parties. Seems like Hamas just doesn't like equality. And now for the cherry on top. Research survey number 91, conducted between March 5th and 10th, 2024 by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research, specifically by Dr. Khalil Shakiki in Ramallah. This survey has all of the elements to seem as official and thorough as possible. It's a 42 page document with an introduction explaining the survey's methodology, a summary of the main findings, and detailed questions with charts showing percentages between the two different areas controlled by the Palestinians. The sample size for this survey is 1,580 adults. 830 interviewed face-to-face in 83 different locations in Judea and Samaria, and the remaining 750 in 75 different locations in Gaza. Cynically, they state that the combined West Bank and Gaza Strip data file was reweighted to reflect the actual proportion size of the population in the two Palestinian areas. Therefore, the sample is representative of the residents of the two areas. Yes, very representative. Apparently, Hamas first receives the survey results from Dr. Khalil, revises them, and sends the revised results back to Ramallah. They then ensure that Al Jazeera receives and reports these revised results to the world. They also state that their survey results have been revised according to the practices followed in previous surveys. This is not the first time, and I guess it's not the last. Below we have a comparison between the actual survey results and the corrected results, the lie they want to spread. Let's go through the questions and highlight the most notable differences. In your opinion, was Hamas' decision to attack Israel on October 7th correct? In the poll, they state that the support for Hamas' decision of the massacre remains unchanged, with a total of 71% support. In reality, only about a third of the people, which is still a lot, think this was a good decision. They basically more than doubled the number of people who support the idea that the massacre was a good idea. After several months of the current war, who do you estimate will govern the Gaza Strip? It's important to know that this question is about who do you think will govern and not who do you want to govern. The poll falsely shows that more than half of the Palestinians believe Hamas will govern the Gaza Strip, while in reality, only about a third support this idea. Another interesting detail is that they claim that only 1% believe that the IDF will govern the Gaza Strip, whereas the actual result was over 10 times higher. If it were up to you, whom would you prefer to see governing the Gaza Strip after the end of the war from the following list? This question is about who people want, not who they think will govern. Once again, they falsely claim that more than half of the Palestinians want Hamas to govern, when in reality, less than a third support this option, which is, in my opinion, still a lot. But interestingly, they lowered the IDF support by 6 times. Notably, almost 6% of the Palestinians prefer the IDF to over any other Arab leadership, even higher than the UN. What do you think is the best way to achieve the Palestinian goals, the end of the occupation and establishing an independent state? Notice what they establish as the Palestinian goals. The actual results show that half of the people prefer political negotiations while only a quarter prefer war, but this doesn't suit Hamas' narrative. So they amplify the support for armed activity and lower the support for political negotiations, clearly showing that Hamas prioritizes the war and destruction over peaceful dialogue. How would you rate your satisfaction with the performance of the Palestinian authorities? Are you satisfied or not? This question is about satisfaction, like a customer service survey. The real results show that most people are unsatisfied with both Hamas and Fatah. However, in the falsified results, they only boosted the satisfaction ratings for Hamas and Sinwar, once again manipulating the public perception. This is a good one. Who do you think will win this war? More than half believe Israel will win the war. I mean, I can blame them. Hamas never had a real chance of winning, something they knew from the beginning. Their strategy, as always, was to bargain for a ceasefire by causing maximum civilian casualties by hiding behind their own people and exploiting Israel's compassion and love for life by taking civilian hostages. Since they know they can win a legitimate legal war, they more than halved the perceived likelihood of Israel winning and almost doubled the perception that Hamas might have a chance. If the new presidential elections are held in the Palestinian Authority and Mahmoud Abbas runs as a candidate for Fatah and Ismail Haniyeh runs as a candidate for Hamas, who would you vote for? Ismail Haniyeh can no longer run for presidency due to recent developments. But that didn't stop Hamas from more than doubling the perceived support for Ismail Haniyeh, creating the illusion that twice as many people support him over Abbas. It's also interesting that more than half of the people said they wouldn't participate in the elections. I mean, we can all guess why. But this fact doesn't fit their narrative, so they cut it in half. If new elections were held today with the agreement of all political forces in the same lists that participated in the parliamentary elections of January 25th, 2006 were participating now, who would you vote for? Basically, what if the same factions from 2006 were now, who would you vote for? Surprise, surprise, they lowered Fatah, increased Hamas support, and halved the third-party support. And finally, which of the following factions and parties do you support? Most people prefer a third party. They're not happy with Fatah or Hamas. Fatah comes in second and Hamas in last. After 17 years of controlling their people, Hamas ends up at the bottom of the list of factions their own people want to support. How sad is it that after controlling their narrative, news, education, economy, and military for so long, their own people don't want them? Yet their ego and lust for power and destruction are so great that they're willing to rewrite their own people's perception and opinions against their will because they don't really care about their people. They only care about their stated mission, destroying the state of Israel by any means necessary. But the truth always finds a way of coming out to the light. Together we can stand against the lies and deceit and support a future built on honesty, because only that way we have any chance of striving for peace. If this video opened your eyes in any way to the reality on the ground, share it and help us spread the truth. I'm Israel Chai.